right, guys, we're going to get started. So good morning and welcome. I see the numbers are still going up. So we have a few more that'll look like they're just joining in. But we'll get started. So good morning and welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. Today's session is really going to be focused on what's new in Morpheus 5.0. So as you know, just exactly 2 weeks ago, we announced the release of Morpheus 5.0. There was a news release. If you haven't seen it, it's available on our website. And then we followed that up with a technical blog and a video as well on our YouTube channel. So please take a look at that if you haven't done so already. Okay, so today I'm delighted to be introducing the Vice President of Engineering at Morpheus Data, Mr. David Estes, who is joining us. He will be walking through the demonstration and taking any of your Q&A today. So we'll go through questions and answers, and we'll answer them all live, hopefully in the second half of this session. My name is Hisham Rad. I'm the Director of Technical Marketing, and I'll be jumping through the slides, and we'll have this interactive discussion with David. So David, thank you so much for joining us. Would you like to say hello?
Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning. So yeah, got my coffee and I'm ready to go.
Excellent. Thank you, David. Glad to have you. And also another gentleman that is joining us today is Simon Robinson, who is our marketing manager out of the UK. So Simon, if you're there, do you want to say hello really quickly?
I do. Thank you. Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you so much, Simon. Glad to have you. All right, so let's get started. So today's session is really focused on the Morpheus 5.0. And by the way, just 2 hours from now, I'm also doing another Morpheus Monthly, which is really focused on, hey, what is Morpheus, and going through a full end-to-end demo. So if you're interested, please come back and join me for that session in 2 hours as well. But this one, again, you've already registered for this. You know what we're going to be talking about. We'll give a quick 2-slide overview, if you will, of the Morpheus Cloud Management Platform and the problems that we solve. And then we'll jump into the details of what's new in 5.0. And then from there, David will walk us through an awesome demonstration of what's new in 5.0, especially since he's had a hand in a lot of those new capabilities. So we're really looking forward to that. And then also we'll touch at the very end about, hey, what are some of the next steps that you can do to get started with Morpheus? And so we'll walk through that at the very end. All right, so this slide here is really not something that's uncommon to all of you, right? You're all used to this because every organization that we speak to typically has an environment like this. There's their on-prem environment, one or more data centers. There's a number of adjacent technologies that are required to make sure the environment functions, from logging to monitoring, from load balancing technologies, from configuration management technologies. And organizations are looking at bare metal. They're looking at virtualized applications. They're also looking at now being able to build modern applications, leveraging new technologies and leveraging technologies like infrastructure as code, especially as they start to work across the cloud. Well, how do you make this all work? This in itself has introduced a lot of problems, right? Because a lot of developers go out and swipe their credit cards and spin up these workloads in the public cloud, but then IT is losing that control and visibility, and that really introduces a lot of risk. That risk is a big problem for a lot of organizations. That's one, but then there's also additional cost issues that come up and that arise as part of this too. And then because of all these different technologies, there's all these different siloed groups within these organizations, and they're struggling, to really collaborate across these groups. There's a lot of manual handoffs, and that also introduces a lot of complexity and a lot of time delay, if you will, when somebody's trying to get something done. And again, that goes to the earlier problem with developers just going out to the public cloud and spinning up workloads. So this is really the problem that we solve, right? And then really how we solve this is by providing an on-demand self-service experience that works across the hybrid cloud to manage the entire life cycle of the application. And remember, all these adjacent technologies are really required to make that happen. And companies that want to innovate, they need to improve and enhance their speed and agility. Now, Morpheus is a hybrid cloud application provisioning and orchestration platform. This is the heart and soul of what we do. And we can help you do that at the edge. We can help you do that in your private data centers. We can also help you do that in the public cloud. So from one offering that's really going to help you glue all those things together that you just saw in the previous slide. So again, from a bare metal perspective, from virtual platforms, containers and PaaS, FaaS, so modern applications, we can help you with that. And we're really focused on persona-based development because we want to address a number of use cases that cover different personas within the IT world, within your organizations. And again, the big focus obviously is on the application lifecycle, right? From cradle to grave, how can we do that and how can we help you? And we want to provide that in a way that's unified, that'll work in a unified way across all the different clouds. So we want to make it simple. We pride ourselves on being a 100% agnostic organization. Nobody really wants to be locked into a specific platform, right? You know, a lot of organizations want you to really lock in, but you know, that's how they make their product sticky, and then make it hard for you to ever move away. But really, we're not saying that. What we're saying is, hey, you have all these disparate tools. You're struggling to make them all work together. Let us help you leveraging a non-agnostic solution to bring that all together and help you make that all work for you and really serve all your constituents within your organizations and within your customer bases as well. And we want it to be responsive. And what we mean by that is we are going to continue to move forward and enhance with new technology. So, hey, you want to leverage Terraform? Guess what? You can do that through Morpheus. You want to, deploy Kubernetes? Great, you can do that, and you can manage Kubernetes on multiple platforms, multiple clouds, right? So we are going to constantly be there for you to help you as new technologies are available. So, containers, PaaS, FaaS, we are there for you to help you in that. As I mentioned earlier, we are all about providing an on-demand self-service experience. Why? Because that's how you introduce and gain that speed and agility that everybody wants. When you talk to different organizations, even Gartner's numbers, actually, 61% of IT folks say that one of their number one priorities is speed and agility. They have to be able to react quicker. How can you do that if you don't have a self-service, on-demand self-service experience? That's what you have to have in order to achieve that. So again, the heart and soul of what we do at Morpheus is provide that self-service experience to allow you to manage the entire application lifecycle regardless of where it lives, okay? So self-service is really important to us. Now, in order to do this and make this happen though, we have to serve these different personas, if you will, right? So from cloud administrators, cloud ops folks, IT practitioners, right? We have to be able to help you integrate and bring your on-prem environment under management, right? So it's all about discovering brownfield environment and bringing it in while allowing you to also be able to dabble with new technologies like Kubernetes, like infrastructure as a service, right? Anything new that you may want to be leveraging, we want to make it simple to leverage and provide a easy self-service catalog as well. Then from a governance perspective, right? So as I mentioned earlier, developers are swiping credit cards, they get these workloads, IT is losing control and visibility. It introduces risk. It also costs the organizations a lot more money. Well, wouldn't it be nice if you're able to do exactly that, right? So provide the developers what they need, provide the DevOps folks what they need, right? Provide everybody internally or externally, your customers, what they need, but having that visibility, having that control, making sure you have that governance around that. And that's what the Morpheus RBAC and policy engine will provide you as a result. Again, I already touched on DevOps, right? We want to be able to serve that group. We want to continue to foster a stronger DevOps culture within these different organizations, right? That's really important. I often talk to customers where there's still a lot of separation between the devs and the ops folks, right? Again, we really want to foster that. That helps organizations become more innovative, when they start to adopt and foster this type of culture, that DevOps culture. And again, That means being able to still serve the existing applications that you have, whether they're on bare metal, whether they're containerized, virtualized workloads, and whether they're modern applications leveraging containers and PaaS and FaaS, etc. We're going to be able to, help you there. And yes, we will tie into CI/CD hooks. So, again, developers want to be able to do this. They want this in a governed way, but also want to be able to do this, whether it's at the command line, whether it's via API, whether it's in the UI as well, for those who choose that too. And lastly, from a business ops perspective, right? From a business perspective, and I feel all of us have a responsibility in this area, right? Being able to save money. And in order to save money, I always say, you have to be able to, to manage your environment, right? First, I got to be able to manage the environment to see how much it's costing me so I can then go ahead and, and optimize it. So having that, visibility and the optimization capabilities is critical, along with all the costing and reporting that comes along with that to really help every organization save money. One of the things that I find is nobody's kind of given a blank check, right? Everybody's being asked to do more with less. Hey, you got less people now. Yes, we still want you to do everything you were doing, and, right? So everybody wants you to do more. And the same comes down to when it comes down to cost, right? Again, do more with less. And this is one area where we're certainly able to help you with that. Great. Now that kind of, at the backdrop of what we do from a Morpheus perspective, how we can help, we touched on all those personas that we're really focused on, right? From a use case perspective and how we can help each of those. Let's touch on what's new in 5.0 and get into the details and get to the exciting part with David, where he's going to walk us through a demonstration and we'll take live Q&A as well. And just as a reminder, the Q&A window is in your bottom tray, I believe. So it's marked as Q&A. So please use that for questions, not the chat window. So I'll just repeat, please use the Q&A window, not the chat window, for any questions. And yes, this session is being recorded and will be shared after the fact. So I'll provide it to Simon and that will go out with the email after the fact. Okay, 5.0, here's a summary. A new service catalog persona. A lot of organizations said, hey, we love your self-service catalog. We love the flexibility it gives us in being able to select all these different things. But hey, can you also provide us an experience where we make it really simple and provide minimal input? And that's what we're doing. You're going to actually get to see that live. You'll see that in the slides. You'll see that live also with David. Costing. Costing is really important. We've been doing costing for a long time. As a matter of fact, we've had the invoicing capability for a long time as well. That invoicing capability has been available in the command line interface as well as via API. But now with the 5.0 release, it actually comes to the graphical user interface as well. So you'll be able to see that and see a lot more detailed around costing, including the invoices from the different clouds as well. Reporting improvements. We've been asked to enhance our reports and provide more reports, especially around that section just before, around costing as well. So there's more costing reports that you'll see as part of that, but also the ability to schedule reports, which a lot of people want, right? Hey, I want to be able to schedule a report and just, make sure it's already there for me when I need it, right? So now you have the ability to schedule reports, and we're going to continue to enhance that capability as well. And one of the things that we do with every release is, you guys already know this, right? We have over 90+ different integrations within the Morpheus platform, but we continue to add more integrations. We continue to enhance the existing integrations, as you're seeing here, enhancements to vCloud Director, enhancements to Veeam, enhancements to the ServiceNow integration by updating the plugin as well, right? But in addition to that, we have a brand new integration in this release, and that is the canonical Metal as a Service. That really helps you enable bare metal clouds, right? There's other enhancements around guidance. Guidance is all about right sizing, so there's enhancements there as well. Now let's get into those details and a little bit more, and then we'll get to see them live in the UI as well. So as I mentioned earlier, right, we're really kind of focused on, addressing a lot of different use cases for different personas, right? So the new one that you see here is that service catalog persona, providing that, simple shopping cart experience. DevOps has been something we've been focused on from day one, since the inception of the product, and the roots of the product were really focused on the DevOps persona, if you will, and we continue to enhance that. The FinOps persona, I usually, reference that more as a business operations persona, right? Somebody who needs more visibility around the environment, costing, reporting, that. So again, we continue to enhance that. And obviously, a lot of us who, our roots are more from the cloud ops, right? The IT practitioners, right? We're the ones that stood up the data centers and make them tick and make them work, right, for our customers. And so we're just extending those capabilities to work not only in the data center, but also across the public cloud as well. Okay, so Simon, hey, and keep an eye on out for those Q&A with you and David, please, because I think I start to see some of them popping up here on the screen. So again, here's what that new self-service catalog persona looks like. You simply assign this to the individuals that you want to provide this simple user experience. And then they're going to get a UI where they just basically see all the applications that they're entitled to, again, by their administrator. And it's a simple ordering experience. Hey, I just want to go ahead and order this. And when I go ahead and order it, right, I'm provided with a dialog box where I can provide some input or provide no input at all. So in this case, I have to provide a name, but I can make it as an administrator. So, the person ordering this doesn't have to put any information in whatsoever. And then I simply add that to the cart, right? And then once I'm done my shopping, right, I've ordered all the applications that I want. I'll just go to the shopping cart. I'll actually review it, and then once I review it in the cart, I will go ahead and actually place that order. And that provisioning will just take place in the background. Any approvals, any incident, CMDB integration, all that still happens just like it does today, but all that happens automagically for those users. They don't, get to see it. It's a very simple experience. And again, we're going to be continuing to enhance this anything as a service experience here for instances, for application stacks, and we're going to continue to provide more things as part of that as well. Next, again, I want to touch on the reporting. So remember, I said reporting is really important, but in addition to reporting, one of the things that we're focused on is that invoicing, right? Enhancing the costing capabilities in the Morpheus platform. So now, the invoicing capability, again, that was available in the CLI as well as the API, is now available in the user interface as well. So you're going to be able to get all this granular and consolidated billing information from these different public clouds, Amazon, Azure, Google, and Oracle. And by the way, we still capture this for other clouds as well, but for these public clouds is where we provide a lot more detail and we get down to some of those line item invoices as well. So you will get to see a lot of that. And you get to filter and look at this data any which way you want. You get to customize the views on these different pages, because this page that you're looking at in the graphic has the advanced paging capabilities where you can go in and filter and modify that. And again, build your own custom views that you can look at as well as part of this. So it's very, very cool. So here, just to kind of click on one of those invoices, you can go in, and once I click on an invoice, I can see the summary, I can look at the historical data, I can look at the line items as part of that, and I can look at my existing cost, and if I've had this running for like 6 months, I'll be able to see the historical cost for that as well. So I have that, really good view looking back and looking at where I am today. Reporting, as I mentioned, is really important. So again, the reporting UI has gotten a new look and feel. I won't steal David's thunder on that. He'll walk us through that. But we have a number of new reports and the ability to schedule reports. And like I said, David will walk us through this part here in more detail as well. And as I mentioned, right, with every release, we continue to focus on, enhancing different areas of the product, whether that's usability, right? So with every release, we want to enhance different areas, right? Where are areas in the product that, we've had some feedback or we feel that we can optimize and make, sleeker, make better, provide a better user experience overall. That's one thing we're focused on, is that usability aspect of it. But in addition to that, as I mentioned, we're continuously looking to modify and enhance existing integration experiences with different clouds, but also add new capabilities. So now if you're taking a look at the top visual here, you'll see I'm listing just some of the public and private clouds because I've cut it off here, that entire screen. But you can see here, now we have Canonical Metal as a Service. That's a new addition that we can add here, right? So that's a brand new integration to help enable bare metal private clouds within an organization. We enhance the AWS cloud integrations. Other clouds where we've enhanced the guidance across that, so you can actually now look at guidance and filter that data in different ways, and look at guidance, at a 30, 60, 90-day visual as well. So you have the ability to do that. And also some other integration like vCloud Director has been a cloud endpoint for us as well. So yes, even to simplify that vCloud Director provisioning experience, you can make that all happen through the Morpheus platform, right? So now we enhance different things as well, from IP pools and being able to better manage snapshots inside of vCloud Director, but right from the Morpheus UI. So incredibly powerful, the things that you can do there. And around the guidance, again, you can go in and set your type of thresholds for that too. Veeam, right? So now introducing Veeam 10 as part of the integration. So we've supported up to 9.x and 10 has now been added, but also one capability that was there that was added to the 10 is specifically being able to also delete a backup job, right? So you can go in, you can tie into Veeam 10, you can, take backups, but hey, this was a request that came in. Hey, we want to be able to also delete the backups right from here, right? Now you're able to see the backups, delete them, right? Provide better cloud synchronization. So by default, when you actually integrate different clouds, whether it's your on-prem private clouds in VMware or Nutanix or other, infrastructure platforms like HPE OneView or Cisco UCS, et cetera, or whether you're doing this in the public cloud, we actually will synchronize that data every 5 minutes. So we're constantly looking for anything new, right? So you spin up new workloads just in those different environments separately from the Morpheus UI. We're going to be able to discover that. So we discover that, and that default interval is 5 minutes. Now, in some environments where they're maybe more static, you may choose to, synchronize a little less often. In some environments where they're a little bit more dynamic, right, or there's a lot more changes happening, you may also want to, bring that interval down. So you have the flexibility now to do that. And as I mentioned earlier, right, ServiceNow is a very popular integration for us because, let's face it, a lot of organizations now are leveraging ServiceNow for their, CMDB and ITSM experience. And the great thing about our integration is we actually cover 4 different use cases for ServiceNow. Yes, 4 different use cases. We do CMDB integration. So anytime we provision anything, we can populate the CMDB and keep that updated. That's one integration. The second integration is around incident management. So we actually monitor the health and of applications and resources that are provisioned from Morpheus. So as we monitor those, if we detect health issues or performance degradation, based on the checks that we do, we will actually open up incidents in ServiceNow for you as well. So we actually do incident management, right? In addition to that, we can do approvals. So some folks say, hey, you know what? We don't want to leverage Morpheus to do approvals. So yes, you can do approvals in Morpheus itself. But some customers say, hey, we want to leverage our ITSM solution. We want to leverage ServiceNow. Well, you can do that. You can turn that on and do also that through ServiceNow. So you can do approvals in ServiceNow by leveraging this. And lastly, this Morpheus plugin. This Morpheus plugin for ServiceNow, this allows you to take the self-service catalog items that you build in Morpheus and present them inside of the ServiceNow self-service catalog. a lot of organizations have service now be sort of the the be all end all, if you will, from an ordering perspective. Hey, a manager can order a new phone, can order a new laptop for a new employee, right? They can order a new Active Directory account. Well, guess what? Now you can also order any new applications through Morpheus, but inside of the ServiceNow self-service catalog. So incredibly powerful integration there. Again, we continue, as I mentioned, right, to enhance the usability and improve different areas in the UI. So here you see us that we're moving some things around. We're, consolidating some things. So the second one, for example, that instead of costing, that used to say budgeting, but now it says costing. And then in costing, you go in and you look at budgets, invoices, and usage and cost usage in one place, right? So we're really looking to continue to enhance and optimize the UI. And you will see some of this as David walks through the UI here momentarily. Now, enough from Hisham. Let's go ahead and hand it over to David, who we're all super excited to hear from. And David will walk us through a live demonstration, and then we will come back and walk through the next steps after that. David, I'll stop sharing and pass it back over to you.
Sounds great. All right. Can you guys hear me okay before I get started, Hisham? I believe you can, but I'm just double checking.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
All right, so we'll log into our 5.0 environment. We're actually in the middle of testing for moving it to 5.1, so you'll see some of that. There's no real differences here. We're in hardening phase right now, so you'll see some improvements a little bit here as we go. All right, so what's new in 5.0? So a few things we want to talk about first is let's talk about costing and invoicing. So one of the big things we've been working on throughout the year is improving our costing support. We've had real-time costing for Azure and Amazon for about a year now, a little over a year. And there were some gaps, data missing, things like that for cloud native resources, things like that. It was mostly focused around compute. So we've expanded that to cover all cloud native resources. And to do that, we've actually started downloading your actual invoice or billing report file from Amazon and Azure respectively, as well as Oracle Cloud and a few others. If we go into this new costing section, this used to be just budgets. We added costing and we actually wrapped budgets, invoices, and we moved usage out of activity into here. Anything related to metering or costing is now in this section. So if we go into invoices, we actually do this nightly. We sync all your resources. You'll see things that are discovered here as a type resource. So like I think I can find load balancers as well. So I can search for a load balancer ID. Let's see if that comes up. Here in a minute. There you go. You can see some load balancers syncing in from Amazon. So not only is this doing your costing, it's actually doing service discovery. So anything that's cloud native resources now represented in Morpheus. And there's actually a new UI coming to actually better represent resources or generic resource types as well. One of the things we can do here, though, what's really cool is we actually can look at these invoices on an individual resource perspective or a cloud level perspective. So I actually have a few here. So I have an Elasticsearch instance right here as an example. You can see this October invoice is showing a cost this month of $26 and an estimated cost of $39. So it's actually doing cost projection based on runtime and things like that. It's estimating it's going to be 6 cents less than it was last month, so a 0.17% savings right now based on trends. You can actually go down here and see a little bit more detail. What percentage is compute-based, storage costs. We actually roll up like your EBS volumes into the server or blob storage for Azure equivalent. Network transfer is also tracked. You can look at your month to date and your total projected as a result of that. Another cool thing we have is we have a history for you. So this actually started billing in about July. So focus on July forward for now, or a little bit of June, but you can actually see those trend lines, how it went up. And the reason it went up is because we're actually fully utilizing our reserved instances. So this is your blended rate per se. So one of those nice trends here is you can see those, distribution of cost and spend on that resource. You can also see the line items, just kind of give you an idea of the granularity you have. We actually roll up the line items from the hourly buckets. We give you your usage, your rate, your unit, and your cost and what that came from. So we've got a T2 medium box usage, we got a volume usage, and data transfer. Pretty useful data to have. You can do a lot with this. There's a full Invoices API for extraction of this data as well. We also roll this up to what we call a cloud level invoice. So notice this invoices had types over here. So there's different types. We are even now doing load balancers here coming soon as a type instead of generic resource. So you'll have all those types. You can even look at unattached volume costs. So maybe you've got EBS volumes that are unattached. You can actually track those costs if there are any in there. Let me get rid of that search phrase and it should start showing you some of those.
So David, quick question for you, if you don't mind. So, let's say if I'm actually, tied into AWS and I start to spin up new workloads, and then how quickly will they show up in here in the invoicing UI?
Great question. So there's two answers to that. So typically an invoice will show up within the hour if it was provisioned by Morpheus, and that invoice won't be the real-time costing data. That'll be projected costs or estimated from Morpheus metering. And then after the nightly billing report runs, it will get filled in with the invoice data set. Now, that being said, different clouds have different delays on how quickly they populate that data in the billing report file. Azure, for example, will give you a partial on day one, and then 3 days later, fill it out more. So there can be up to a 3 to 4 day delay, depending on the cloud providers.
Depending on the cloud provider. But in AWS, for example, after that nightly run, it'll be the actual cost, correct?
Again, after 3 to 4 days up to.
Okay.
But typically, yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
It does vary, I've noticed. There was a lot of trial and error doing this. All right, and then this is an example of Azure from a cloud perspective. So it's actually looking like we've spent about $1,000 this month on our QA Azure cloud account. We have an estimated cost projection of 1722. We're projected to have an increase of $900 this month. That makes sense. We've actually ramped up a lot of testing this month for releases. So actually that makes a lot of sense as to what's going on. You can also see a history of that. And sometimes there are line items for these. This one doesn't have any, but Amazon's does, where like if you've got Cost Explorer API usage or things that don't fit into resource buckets, you will see line items related to those things showing up. What's really cool about this is it gives you a consistent Invoice API to extract data from various public clouds. We're also going to be feeding our account usage or standard billing metering data that some of you guys may be using on the managed service provider side into this Invoices API as well. So if you're doing VMware, Nutanix, and Zen, you'll eventually be able to go in here and see line items in an invoice rolled up from all your costs. So you have a simpler way to extract that data than you have now with the billing API. All right. That's the brunt of costing. There's a lot more to it, and it's actually a good segue into reports. So we've done a lot in reports of late. So we've actually changed our UI a little bit of reports. There's a lot more report types. There's even some cloud-specific ones. So if you want to look at like your reservation coverage, you can hit run, pick your cloud, pick a time span. It's going to run that for you, and you can look at your reserved instance coverage. We actually don't use them very much. Well, I take that back. I guess we do in the product account. You can see here our coverage is pretty much full. We've actually maximized those. We have an M4 large that we hardly use. That's new, but you can kind of see that reserved instance coverage there. So that's pulling that from that data set from Amazon. There's some other ones I really would like to show. Time series cost report, which is leveraging that new invoice data. A couple things here. One, we added schedule reporting, so you can actually fill out just like you were with Run Now, but you can actually set a schedule on this to run periodically and auto-generate that report. There is a feature coming out in the future with related to schedule where it'll actually email deliver that as well. That's step 2 with this. So keep an eye out for that. What's cool about time series cost is you can actually say, hey, I want to run a time series cost report over a 3-month period. I'm going to pick, let's pick QA Amazon. Actually, let's do AWS Prod. We'll group by service. So actually look at a service breakdown cost. But you can see there's a ton of group bys. Another cool thing is with Amazon costing, if you've got multiple sub accounts, you just have to turn costing on the master account, and we'll download over that S3 bucket, that billing report file in the master account. And we'll automatically look for the linked account IDs of the other clouds you've added in Morpheus that are sub accounts, and we'll automatically aggregate the costing invoicing into those sub accounts. So you just have to turn costing on the master. It will process that file and push that costing data into those sub accounts as you want to. It'll do it by region filter as well. There's tons of other filters. You can do filters by a tag exclude, cost team, cost environment. So a lot of cool stuff there, a lot more tag costing related stuff. So if you got a cost center and you want to do that kind of filter, you can do that. I can run this. It's going to generate this report. And there's an example of what you might see. You can see in this account, we've got, in July, we had largest percentage is EC2 compute. We did have a lot in RDS this time. It looks like we were testing some Aurora probably. So we pulled up some costing there. Undefined is just, it doesn't have a category. So I think that one we're trying to figure out how best to define it better, but there are some that are not categorized yet. But for the most part, they are there, and you can kind of see what those are here. AWS Q services, KMS, CloudTrail, all that type of stuff is here. And you can also see the spread across those services over the month period. This actually might be familiar to you. It does look similar to some of the Cost Explorer UI you might see in Amazon's console as well. That's a big part of reports. There's a lot more here. We've improved some reports. We've added more filters, more multi-tag select filters, more tag excludes, all that type of stuff is in there. We've got a lot more to go. So keep a lookout for that, but we are excited about where this is headed. All right, moving off from reports, the next big thing is personas. So this is probably the biggest feature we've done in a while. So one of the key changes here is we wanted to provide a way to provide UIs that were different or targeted different audiences based on their use case. And that's what personas are. So we've designed it not just to facilitate self-service catalogs, but in the future, we could add more. We could add a FinOps or a VDI or things like that, depending on what we decide to do. We have options for that. So the way that works is when you log in, firstly, let's go from an administration perspective. To set up a catalog, you just go to Tools, Self-Service. And this is where you can build catalog items. And a catalog item can be an instance catalog, it can be a blueprint. Stay tuned, we'll be adding operational workflows as well. And the way that works is you can say, hey, I want to add an instance. I can give it a name and description or a catalog item type. And we can give it a logo or pick a logo as well. So you've got some options there. I can actually go to the configuration wizard and actually pick, maybe I want to use an Ubuntu. I can actually do that. I can actually say I want it to provision by default on, let's just do Amazon for now. It could be VMware or any of them. You get all those options, everything you're familiar with. I'm going to hit next just to skip through this, hit complete. And you'll see it actually produces this JSON output. This is the submission payload for the instance. Now I can actually add option types here. Like maybe I want to add an app name, and it'll actually show you what you can inject, the custom options.apps name right here. So you can grab that if you want, and you can inject that into the payload where necessary. So I can do it on cloud. Here's the name right here. So I could just say, hey, I want to override that with the app name like that. So that's the easiest way to build them at the moment. We're working to make it easier as well. So there's some steps. You can also add some content, description, thing like that to make the catalog look prettier. Maybe you want to add some HTML markdown based content to describe the service catalog item. This does feel more like a card system once you see what it looks like. So once you set one up, depending on your user access, which is based on roles. So if a user logs in, you can use your AD or SAML to automatically force them into the service catalog persona. You can make it to where they only have access to this persona and are therefore locked to it or can switch back and forth. So when I switch, you'll see my UI changes. I'm in a new persona. You can see I have a dashboard. I can see if I have any items in my inventory, what I've ordered last. So I can actually order that again. I can go browse the catalog in more detail. And browse my inventory as well. So I can say, hey, I want to do a simple Nginx, which has no options. So you would have a description here. You can put a lot more data here, but you can add to cart, and that's going to show up here. I can also do more complicated things, like maybe I do want to actually let someone pick group, cloud, resource pool, all those types of things. So you can set those option lists up to do that, so you can get some complexity in there if you want. I will say up front, this is harder to set up for administration. But it's easier for the user. So it's a little more difficult than just building an instance type and a blueprint. But that is also at the other end of it. If you want the traditional IT where it's more like ServiceNow or something like that, where you just want a simple catalog where it's order from a cart, checkout, this does facilitate that very nicely. Now I actually have a card. I can actually review my order, see my cost per month, and place that order. And that's going to go actually provision that. I've got an inventory where I can actually view that and view details of that provision. You see it's kicking that off. I've got some basically what you would see in instance details, and you can control the actions and things they have access to. So that is personas. In a gist, I can switch back over here. There's a little bit more to 5.0 as well that I do want to talk about. So the other big thing from a infrastructure perspective is we actually added plugin support, and we'll I think dive into this in a future webinar, Hisham. I'm not going to go too deep,
Right.
But we have added a concept of plugins, and you can actually upload plugins completely to the system. It could be IP address management based. It could be a custom DNS provider. It could be a custom UI tab extension. If you want to inject a tab in your UI, you can do that now. In the future, custom reports, things like that. And it's actually pretty cool. And we actually do have a new developer site where you can actually learn about it. It talks about some of the different plugin types, custom approvals, Cypher backends, custom task types. If you want to actually code those up instead of writing JavaScript or Python or directly into a task, you can actually code a specific task type you want to leverage. Tons of cool things like that. Custom backup providers and clouds are coming in the future as well. So we're really expanding the pluggability of the product and what you can do with it. And there's a ton of docs as well we've provided to get you started, as well as API docs and things like that as well. So keep an eye out for that as we move out of beta and add more functionality into that plugin architecture, but it's pretty cool.
So David, that means as a Morpheus user, I can really extend the capabilities any which way I want, really leveraging this plugin architecture, right?
That's the goal. The goal is also to be able to independently release patches or fixes for specific integration types without having to waiting on a full release. So say, for example, a recent example, BlueCat 9.2 changed some API functionality. We would in the future be able to just push out a plugin update that customers could consume without having to do a full rolling update of Morpheus to resolve that issue.
Wow, very cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I believe that concludes the majority of what's new in 5.0. There's a lot there. The costing has a ton. There's a whole CLI and other aspect of that as well. So
Awesome.
I think, Hisham, it's back to you and Q&A.
Yeah, great. And actually, there were some questions that came through, and I felt it'd be great for us to answer them live. So I figured, you know what, I would tee them up here. So let me just find them really quickly in the list. And so one was just on something you were touching on, which was IPAM integration. So the attendee is asking, did you do any changes around your integrated IPAM? I feel like it was pretty basic in 4.2.
Our IPAM is actually not very basic. It does full DNS, A record, custom attributes. It has variable sync support. I don't know what the question is referring to, if it's talking about the Morpheus-based IPAM, or we just have our own IP pools, or if it's talking about the integrations with Infoblox, SolarWinds, BlueCat. Those are pretty deep integrations. We've actually further enhanced BlueCat as well to bring it up to par with Infoblox. But there's a lot in there. It might be worth asking what particular IPAM you're talking about. If you're talking about Morpheus's IPAM itself, it was meant as a basic solution originally. For people who didn't have enterprise-grade IP address management. That being said, it has been expanding rapidly. From a scalability perspective, it's very reliable for /8s, even CIDR blocks, and we are going to be expanding into IPv6 blocks, as well as Morpheus. Actually, people don't know this, but Morpheus actually is a DNS server as well. Not very many people leverage that functionality, but it does provide that.
Excellent, thank you. So another question. So if you would like to, BK, if you would like to follow up on that, please put it in the Q&A.
He did. He said Morpheus IPAM. So yeah.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yep. So it's basically just reserving your instance association, which has the metadata attached to it. In the future, we could add more custom fields and things like that, like you would see in Infoblox and stuff like that. It would get it very far along the way. But when you do tie it with Morpheus's DNS, it actually is more powerful than people may realize. We just don't advertise the DNS part because it's kind of in its infancy.
Great. Thank you, David. Sorry, I was looking at the
Mhm.
answered one because there were some questions I promised we would answer live. So the other
No
one
problem.
is from MK, and MK asks, how are AWS and Azure invoices ingested into Morpheus?
Yeah, great question. So there's a couple ways to do that. From the AWS perspective, we require you download the billing report file. Normally you set up cost reporting. So if you go to infrastructure clouds, you have to add an AWS master account. So if you're using a reseller account, you can't directly get this. You'll have to work with your reseller to get it. This is a limitation of Amazon, unfortunately. We are looking into alternative options like being able to pull Cloud Health Invoice or APIs to actually feed that if they want to do that. But basically, if you add a master account, you have the ability to pick the costing report or create new that's synced. You can tie it to a costing key in secret if it's separate. So if you've got a sub account and they want to give you a costing key that has access to the report, you can do that as well. What then happens is Morpheus downloads that. It's a large chunk of CSV files that are gzipped, and Morpheus does a streaming process of that nightly. So we have a customer that actually has a 25 gig plus costing report, and we just download that and process it nightly, very efficiently as well. So it's not bogging down the system. Azure's a little different. They have an API for this. Amazon has the Cost Explorer API. I don't want to miss that, but it also has a limited data set and is actually sourcing. It's actually just an app built on top of the same file we're processing. So we're getting more data by doing their billing report file than we could from the Cost Explorer. Azure has like 3 APIs we have to process. So they have the standard, they have an ELA pricing API or price report file that you can download. And then they have a CSP account report file that you can download. So we support all 3. So if you're an MSP and you want to tie into your CSP account and actually provide that costing data to your end users, you can totally do that. And we're also looking at, like we have markup and price adjustments for service plans and on-prem metering. We're looking at adding markup and things like that functionality based on usage category, usage type, all that stuff. So when that data comes in, you can actually apply markup to the end user from a visibility perspective here soon.
Great. Thank you, David. So BK asked another question, and he says, one more question. Do you have something like Software Center? So if a user needs, let's say, Notepad++ on their VM, they can just go somewhere and click install Notepad++?
Yeah, so that's actually doable via our workflows. So you can actually create an operational workflow and run it against an instance. And that operational workflow could be configured to install Notepad++. So that could leverage our archive service, a PowerShell script, for example, to perform that task. We're going to go deeper on that in the future. Keep an eye out for that. But those are things that are there. But the way we expose them, we're going to do things like on your workflows, we're going to add categories and things like that, better permissioning. So there'll be easier ways to kind of group that type of task onto the system.
Excellent. And MKS, in the 5.0 release, is the 5.0 release an in-place upgrade? What's the process to get upgraded to the latest release?
Yep, it is an in-place upgrade. It is a big upgrade. It is still a beta, so I wouldn't upgrade your production quite yet. We're trying to get to 5.1 here ASAP and 5.2 LTS after that. It's working very well. I should also inform you it's actually got about a 20% memory usage reduction and things of that nature. So it's actually lighter load on your system, which is great. So not only have we focused on adding this new functionality, we've actually focused on reducing overhead of the system. 4.2x is also getting some of those benefits as well. That's where you've seen with 4.2.4 released this week, 10x performance improvements on VMware Sync, 2 to 3x on Amazon. Those types of functionality benefits are being put into the product as well. So we're not just focusing on new functionality, we're also focusing on closing cases as they come in and performance and things like that for you guys.
Great, thank you, David. So another question from CV. CV asks, why should I use vCloud Director as an endpoint? Is there a benefit, or is it the NSXT integration why I should use the director?
Great question. I would actually say that the Morpheus NSXT integration is perfectly fine for leveraging multi-cloud environments from an MSP perspective. We have several MSPs who skip vCloud Director and use Morpheus directly for that purpose. I think vCloud Director is used by some MSPs for a few other reasons. One, used to we didn't have software-defined networking. That's new this year. Two, what would I say? We've had customers who have been on VCD for years and have a lot of customers already in that environment. So they wanted to provide a way for them to consume via Morpheus without having to fully ditch vCloud Director. That's another reason. And I'm sure that our other vCloud Director customers, some who are probably on the call, probably have other answers to that, but we also have several who do not need VCD. So from my perspective, I don't see the need for it that much. Once you tie in vCenter with Morpheus, you can pretty much do anything you can do in VCD.
Great. Thank you so much, David. And once again, I'd just like to remind everybody, if you do have any questions, please put them in the Q&A window. Again, we still have about 7 more minutes, so please submit any questions that you may still have. Okay, and in the meantime, David, then what I'll do is I'll just take it back and walk through the next steps slide, and then we'll come back and answer any additional Q&A that come up. Okay, so thank you again. Hopefully you guys are excited about the 5.x platform as much as we are. So there's some additional information. If you want to get into some more details around the platform, please visit our docs site and you can actually walk through the 5.0 release notes. There's going to be a lot more things that are listed in there and give you some additional information. And please go ahead and give this a try. So actually you can go to the morpheusdata.com/community welcome. This will redirect you to the Morpheus Hub, and then you're able to sign in and download the community edition. You can download the community edition from the LTS release, so the 4.2 release, as well as being able to download the 5.0 release and give it a try as well. So please go ahead and give it a try. Also, if you'd like to actually speak in a more intimate setting with a one-on-one, if you will, with somebody from Morpheus or one of our partners, we'd be happy to have that discussion and walk you through a detailed demo of the product and really answer all the questions that you may have. So please feel free to go make that request at morpheusdata.com/demo. In addition to that, obviously, there's a ton of resources that we have on different channels, on our YouTube channel, on our Reddit channel, on our documentation site, on our support site. So please leverage that information as well. And we'll look forward to speaking with you again soon. So I'll take a look to see if there's any additional questions that have come up. But if not, we can conclude the call. So one last question I guess I'll ask is, again, please submit any Q&A and then we'll take them now. And if not, we'll just hang up here in a couple of minutes. So we'll give everybody a minute if you don't mind, David.
No problem. Morpheus has actually had great questions. So someone just asked, does Morpheus have multi-currency support? And the answer is yes. It's actually had it for a long time. You actually have tenant currency settings, and you can actually link into a currency conversion service that'll actually show you the equivalent exchange rates and things like that. So if you're running your Amazon bill and you want to see what it looks like in euros or pounds or things like that, you can see that in Morpheus. There's also locale support, so it'll display your currency and the correct currency symbols. All that type of stuff is built into the product. Someone asked me why the dollar symbol wasn't showing last time I did this webinar, and it's because I forgot my browser was set to English UK for testing for James. So,
excellent. Thank you so much, David. So we'll just do a quick, another question just popped in. So how's the Rubrik integration work? Will Rubrik need access direct to all systems? Is there also an automatic billing behind it?
Yeah, so how does the Rubrik integration work? So whatever requirements Rubrik imposes on you for doing backups are still valid. So you'd have to refer to those. Typically, I think it does need access to some systems for its agent. I don't think it needs direct. But we basically orchestrate telling Rubrik what to do. We send hey, we want to set up a backup job or schedule for this VME provisioned, and we automate that scheduling process. And we also can kick off restores as well.
Great. Thank you so much. Awesome. Great questions, everybody. So
there is a question on his about an automatic billing behind that. I'm not sure what that's referring to. Is that referring to the Rubrik side or just in general?
CV, if you'd like to just follow up with a clarification, we'd be happy to take that.
I guess I can. We don't really do much with billing on backups yet. If we're talking about automatic billing, like sending a customer bill, that's not something we currently do yet. But as you can see, we're getting to the point where that could in the future be a feature functionality, especially as we get these invoices going and things like that. So
awesome. Thank you, David. Well, everybody, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. We really appreciate your time. Thank you. We're super excited about the 5.x release, and hopefully you guys are as well, and you'll give it a chance and give it a try. And again, please feel free to reach out to us. So during these challenging times, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. And we'd like, please stay safe, please stay healthy, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon. And as I'm saying that, since we do have couple more minutes, another question did come up. David, would you like to take that?
yeah, it sounds like traffic management or flow control, basically from a load balancer. I think that depends on the load balancer integration. That's something we could definitely look into in the future. It depends on the specific VIP we're talking about as well. If you want to start bleeding traffic or things like that, and the blue-green stuff, that's definitely a roadmap item we are looking into. So, great question.
Great. Thank you.
We're getting some more here.
Yeah, I like it.
Great question. 3PAR is one of our earliest storage integrations. We had a customer actually in the UK that requested that. I haven't messed with it in a while. It probably could use some attention from just looking at it perspective, because I know there's a bunch of new functionality that I haven't messed with. But its primary goal was to allow you to create volumes and attach those volumes into vCenter from 3PAR. So you could actually create the iSCSI volumes over the fiber channel and actually link those into your vCenter as targeted data stores. That was the original purpose. There's a couple other storage integrations we've added since then. So we've added Dell ECS and Dell Isilon, where you can create NFS volumes that you can mount into your workloads, or S3 compatible buckets. So we've been doing a lot with the storage management stuff, and I think we've got a lot more to go. I've seen some requests for pure storage as well, and NetApp. So you'll see more of that. And that's also where our plugin ecosystem, where we can better support that and scale that out.
Thank you so much. So thank you, everybody. You all have a fantastic day, a fantastic evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in the near future. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, guys.